Peace and blessings, everybody, and happy Monday. I am Asiya Nasir, CEO and nonprofit strategist for my consulting firm, Utopian Enterprise Business Solutions, and author of my second release book, Nonprofit Doesn't Mean No Profit. I'm here to talk about a really important aspect of running a nonprofit and running it in a very efficient way. And they always say, no one is an island unto themselves, right? So running a nonprofit organization, as I say in previous videos and as I say to my clients, it is a business that you are running. So when you're running a business, it includes other people, other, perspectives, other, working styles and things like that. So in order for you to be able to be cohesive and be able to really push, the cause that you're looking to do, today's topic is talking about crafting positivity and elevating your nonprofit with a striving corporate culture. So, what do I mean by that? Right? We've all worked at places before where it's like I would, I would go anywhere for free, just not to be here. Right? So we definitely, with nonprofit organizations and the nuance of nonprofit, it's you don't get paid to come in for the majority of those. So it doesn't mean that nonprofit doesn't hire people for a paid salary. But the majority of people who work within the nonprofit structure within an organization are volunteers, whether they serve on the board or whether they're volunteers on a committee. Typically, they do not get paid a salary for that. So creating a culture and creating an environment for them to want to keep coming back and providing their services, their expertise, their resources, creating a positive corporate culture is going to be very important to you being able to push your nonprofit cause and able to make the impact that you want to make within your community. So today, as I always do on every Monday, I give 5 different tips for you to be able to thrive as a nonprofit organization. And so this morning is not going to be any different. So what are those 5 tips to help you thrive in a corporate culture that is promoting positivity, encouragement, support, all of those things that make for a good business, right? So the first tip is ensuring that everything that you do, every decision that you make is mission driven focus. So what does that mean? Oftentimes when people differ in styles and approach and the way they would do things, it's from a personal perspective. They're looking at it as that's that personal preference. That's the way you would do something. And so it's easy to differ, it's easy to clash, it's easy to, find fault. But when you focus as a founder or as a leader in your nonprofit organization, when you make the mission the most focus, and that every decision that is being made is to push that mission and to fulfill that mission and to have it come into fruition. It's a little different because volunteers, they come to your nonprofit organization to serve because they believe in the mission. They believe in what it is that you're championing. So when you make every decision that you do within the organization about how is this going to promote the mission, how is this going to create the biggest impact for your nonprofit, it's a little different to clash because you're like, okay, we're looking at the big picture, not personal differences. So with that being said, what you can do in pushing that and making that the focus is challenge your team, challenge your board of directors, challenge your volunteers, everyone on the team, challenge them to seek within themselves how can they contribute to that mission, to the big picture. Where do they see themselves? What can they contribute to that cause? And a lot of times when people can connect themselves to the mission, they're more likely to stick around. They're more likely to feel like they have a sense of belonging, and they have, we want to work together. It's a positive environment because they feel like they are a integral part of the organization being able to move forward and to make the impact that the organization is trying to make, which was the whole reason why they joined your nonprofit organization. So challenge them. Challenge your team to be able to say, what do you want to bring to the table? What are you going to do that and embrace, what that is and encourage them to do that. because that is going to help to be able to create a positive working and corporate culture, because everyone plays a role, and letting everyone knows that without their contribution, it's going to take longer, or if not come to fruition at all, them not bringing their talents, their skill sets, and their purpose and what they came to the organization for. So challenge them to bring that to the forefront, because it's necessary for the organization to thrive. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is what I call inclusive leadership. Inclusive leadership is consistently ask for feedback. Ask ask your ask the people on your team for consistent feedback. How are we doing? How can we do better? What's working? What are areas of improvement? And that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be at a meeting, a board meeting, or something like that. But what you can do is make it where maybe on a quarterly basis, a biannual basis, or even an annual basis, send out a survey where they can answer anonymously and be able to really share what they see works well within the organization. Again, if you're challenging them to bring what they're going to bring to the organization, that also includes their feedback. Sometimes we may see something and we think it's a great idea, but when you hear different perspectives and when you hear others ideas, you're like, wow, I never even thought of that. Wow, that was I never would have thought that we could approach it that way. So asking for feedback creates a positive corporate culture, because again, you are reinforcing with that their opinion matters, their perspective matters, their ideas matter, and that it can help with that. And it also helps them to see that if something is not working, the organization's intent is to make it better, and that you want to be better. So we all learn by trial and error sometimes, so it's best to ask those that are involved within the organization and know the infrastructure of the organization, that what's working, what's not working, what would you like to see more of? How can we make this a more positive corporate culture for you? What would you like to see within the organization? So that way you are custom, tailor making whatever it is that you're doing internally to the team that you have. So that way they feel like their opinion matters. And this is most important when asking for feedback. It's difficult sometimes, but it's absolutely necessary. And that is being able to embrace diverse perspectives. That's hard, because a lot of us, we're like, as long as we're hearing, yeah, everything is great, everything is wonderful, that's easy to hear, so you just continue to do that. But in actuality, it may not be the truth. They just don't want to have pushback, so to speak. So if you're asking for feedback, encourage that if it's something that they don't like, the only way to make it better is to encourage them to be honest and open about their feedback and their perspectives. And having diverse perspectives is what's going to encourage and promote this positivity, and this corporate culture that is about positivity, is being able to embrace and accept and challenge and encourage diverse perspectives. I say this in my board development training, is a lot of times we want our board directors to just, if we all think the same, it's great. You don't want that. You want a team that is going to be able to challenge you as a leader, challenge you as the founder of your nonprofit organization, to say, hey, while you have the vision, you have this great idea, there may be a better way to do it. And your job is to work smarter, not harder. So if your team has a better way of doing something, you definitely want to be able to take that on and be able to move the needle further for your cause and the impact that you're trying to make. So that's tip number two. And with that being said, encourage your other leaders. So as you as the founder, you're not the excuse me, you're not the only person. If you have committee chairpersons, so for example, the chairperson of your volunteer committee, the chairperson of your fundraising committee, you want to encourage them by leading by example. You want to encourage them to do the same. So at your board meetings, encourage the chairpersons, whoever the chairpersons are for those committees that you have within your organization, challenge them to ask for feedback, to ask for different perspectives, so that way they can bring it back to the board and say, hey, this is the thought process, this is the morale, this is what's happening within our team, and they would like to see this better, or they have an idea of being able to do this smarter. So that's another way to do that, and value their opinions, even if it differs from yours. That's the most important piece, is that even though it's different, value it, thank them for their perspectives, because it allows you to be able to work better as a nonprofit organization. Number three, tip number three, and this is my absolute favorite. This is my absolute favorite. And it goes hand in hand with other, videos that I've done as it relates to board development, as it relates to, you as a leader, leadership development, all of these things. But it's good to reinforce it because it all comes together to be able to have your organization really function on a high level. So tip number three is develop your team, offer professional development. So, in a nutshell, invest in your team. Invest in your team. So, if they're giving you feedback, or you're recognizing that this is an area of improvement, this is something that we need to do better on so that we can move better, impact better, then what you want to do is invest in your team, whether that's leadership development, whether that's, you know, um, different skill sets. It could be technical skill sets, software, customer service skills, whatever that might be. Whatever it is that you're seeing that there's an issue, invest in your team, because what that tells your team when you're talking about creating a positive corporate culture, what it tells your team is that you care about them personally. Because anything that you train them on, anything that you develop them on, they're volunteering for you, but they can take that on. If they're entrepreneurs, they can take those skill sets and whatever it is that they're developing within your nonprofit, they can take that into their business as well. Or if they're working for someone, they can take whatever they're learning into the workplace, which is just, going to help them to be able to advance in their workplace. Or as I mentioned before, as they're entrepreneurs, help them professionally to be able to work better as an entrepreneur as well. So when you develop in your team and when people feel like you care about them, they're going to support you. They're going to be loyal to you. They're going to want to see your mission come to fruition. So when you show that you care, they care. When you show them that it's not just the community that you're looking to help, but this is all inclusive. It's internally as well. We want you to be okay. We want you to be functioning at a high level. We want you to be able to be the best version of yourself. That is a win-win. No matter how you look at it, it's a win-win situation for the organization, for the team, as well as for the community, because everybody is functioning on 10. You see? So when you develop and invest in your team, it's just, you can't go wrong. And tip number four, and this is my favorite, I love this. This is when you recognize and acknowledge accomplishments. It is so important when people feel validated, like their work is appreciated and what they're bringing to the table is being seen, that people see it, people acknowledge it, people like it, and people speak out about it. There's nothing worse than giving your all, especially on a volunteer level where you are helping an organization take their mission to the next level and no one acknowledges it. That's hard. And most people are not going to stay. Most people are not going to stick around for that. That's not an environment that is positive. That's not an environment that's inviting, right? And word of mouth spreads. So if they feel like this is an organization that acknowledges and recognizes its team, they're going to tell their family, they're going to tell their friends, and then their friends or their family may want to be a part of it as well. So you're going to just be expanding just by word of mouth, by doing good. It helps your organization to be able to bring in more people for more perspectives, great ideas, resources, and all that good stuff that comes with those that volunteer and really want to push the mission forward. So acknowledge, and I don't mean just big, like, oh, this person brought in a big donor, or this person, just did this great thing. You definitely want to acknowledge that, right? But you also want to acknowledge those that it may not be as big or as visible to maybe those outside, but just internally or just in that committee, you still want to acknowledge, big or small, the positivity that they're bringing to the organization, because it makes it better for everyone involved. So you want to acknowledge that. So, and that can be in different ways. You can acknowledge them by, publicly acknowledging what they did at a committee meeting or at an event. You want to be able to acknowledge that person. But some people don't like that. Some people don't like public, acknowledgement. They're more shy. They're more introverted, and so for them, it's like that's like the worst thing you could do, and it would keep them from actually shying away from doing more because they don't want that kind of spotlight on them. But what you can do is you can ask your team when someone like your onboarding process, what you can do is you can have a sheet of like what motivates you, what do you like when you're being acknowledged for something, how do you like recognition, do you like public recognition, and that way you can customize it to each person on your team. So if someone likes public accolades and stuff like that, put them on the newsletter, do a live like what we're doing right now, put it on your social media pages, put it on your website, acknowledge them at an event or at a meeting. They'll love it because that's what motivates them. That's what gets them. But then for someone else, they may just want a gift card. They may just want an email that says, thank you. I really appreciate what you did. That was impactful that was a game changer for our nonprofit. For some people, it's not public acknowledgement, but it's acknowledgement nonetheless. And no one, I don't care who you are, introverted, extroverted, everyone loves to be appreciated. No one likes to feel like they don't matter, like their works, their efforts is not acknowledged. So the same goes for your team. So you want to acknowledge them based on the level of how they like to be acknowledged, but make sure that you are acknowledging, rewarding, making mention to that person who did something good for the organization. Make sure that you are recognizing that because that is definitely going to create a thriving corporate culture. So that was tip number 4. And tip number 5 is foster team collaboration. There's nothing better than, having a positive corporate culture than those that are on there, those that are a part of the team being able to work together cohesively. That is always positive. I've worked for companies before where I couldn't stand the people that I worked with. And you see that the signs of someone who doesn't like working amongst their team, or they find it, really difficult, is they start calling out, they start, missing meetings, they're not coming, they're not responsive to things. So it's a little bit different when you work for someone because you're being paid to come in, so you have to come in anyway in order to get a paycheck. But when you have those that are volunteering, what you're going to see, because they're not getting paid and they're working within a toxic or just uninviting environment, you're going to see them missing meetings. They're not going to be responsive to emails. They're not going to be responsive to phone calls. Those are telltale signs that they're not happy with the team. They're not happy with the organization, and they do not feel that the organization is fostering a positive work environment. So what you want to do is create team building things. So at committee meetings, at board meetings, anything that's going to involve some type of internal interaction, you want to include at meetings or committee meetings, virtual or face to face, some type of team building activity, some type of workshop that is going to be, supportive of team building. So that way, internally they like working with each other. I know how to work with that person. There's a workshop that I do, and I'm getting ready to do one for a client, is on effective communication. That one is truly a game changer. We all think that we communicate well, but in that workshop I show the different communication styles that we all have. All of us have a different way in how we articulate and how we receive information. And if that is not clear within the team members, it can be difficult. Someone might be, well, I'm articulating, I'm telling them how I feel, but the other person is not seeing that way. And it could be a fun activity, a fun workshop to be able to kind of poke fun at everyone's different, communication styles, but at the same time, bring it back and reel it back to how do we communicate with one another to develop, a cohesive team building or teamwork within the organization. So it's really, really important. that you create those opportunities at each and every opportunity that you're working with your team. Create some type of team building activity or exercise so that way everyone's getting to learn and know one another much better so that way they can work better with one another, which again is a win-win situation. So there's so many different ways. I know when I was in the corporate world, one of the things that I did when I was a manager at the bank is we would have end of year just for working hard, end of year activity, whether it was going to lunch, whether it was going bowling, whether it was, some type of fun activity. But we would do that as a team just to make sure that we were just, feeling good about working with each other. And it makes a difference when people show up and how they show up to your meetings, to your events, to your, whatever it is that you're doing. They show up so much better because they actually look forward, they enjoy, and they like the people that they work with and that they're volunteering with. So those are the 5 tips that I wanted to share with you. And I guarantee if you implement just even one of them, which I'm hoping it's more than that, but if you implement one, try one and see the difference because I guarantee you will see a difference within your team. So if you're finding that you have high turnover or you have low morale that's happening within your nonprofit organization, implement these things and I guarantee you it is going to change the trajectory of your nonprofit as it relates to your corporate culture and what you're bringing to the table. Nothing worse than having somebody so excited to be a part of your team, and because this part, the corporate culture, is not positive and thriving and inviting, they leave shortly after because it's not an environment that warrants someone wanting to stay and stick around. So make sure that your nonprofit organization is doing these things, implementing these things. Share this with your team, your board of directors, which is your leadership team. So that way, everybody on board, your chairperson, whoever is in a leadership position, share it with them so that way it trickles down to every single person and make it an action plan of how you're going to change the corporate culture of your organization so that way it can thrive and invite more people to want to be a part of your team. If you are looking for someone to help you in this and you're just like, this sounds great, this is exactly what we need, as I mentioned before, within my consulting firm, I do provide those type of services where I can come to you, whether virtually or face to face, and we can actually create workshops customized to your nonprofit and the needs and the areas that you feel that you're struggling in, and bring the whole team together to be able to turn it around. Sometimes they just need another voice. They need someone else to come in and show a different perspective of how they can do something, and it just turns the morale up. It turns that encouragement, that motivation to say, "Hey, yeah, we can do this, and we can make this right." So, if you are interested in having me come and actually facilitating a workshop such as this to be able to build that corporate culture, you can contact me through my website at utopianenterprisebiz.com, and you can notify me and contact us and indicate that you're interested in doing that. We'll set up an initial consultation and get you all set up with you and your team to be able to take your organization to the next level. Stay tuned because I will be back next week. And if you haven't already, and this is the first time that you're on my channel, whether it's on Facebook or on our YouTube channel, follow us, or on our YouTube channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so that way you can continue to benefit from my nonprofit content that I bring each and every week. Make today a great day for yourself. Make this a great week for yourself. Make it impactful for you and your community.